Welcome, everyone. Hello, friends. Thank you for coming. Hello to the sun, also. Thank you for coming. We've been waiting for you. Bated breath. My name is Dana Hale, and despite my incessant complaining, I will be your service coordinator today. Today, our minister, Leon Dunkley, will be giving the reflection. It's titled The Preservation of Sacred Fire. There are so many things going on at the North Chapel each week. Reading through our last email, I noticed a potluck and chamber music concert today, a book club on the 21st, film discussion on the 24th, and a new member class the 31st. It's just in May. Pizza Wednesdays, obviously the most important of the bunch, is coming up, and we would love for you to come. I'm there every week. It's great, you don't have to cook dinner or do dishes. Also, there are nice people there. Yep. So talk to Mary Bletton if you're interested in coming and cooking pizza. We can revisit the burning question, is pineapple an appropriate topping? We're very torn on that, we're not sure. Check out the announcements in your order of service and our website for all the news. We are grateful today and every Sunday that the amazing, the illustrious Tatum Barnes will be leading spiritual exploration. Thank you, Tatum. If you are visiting today, we would love to have you sign the guest book at the back of the church. I have to be honest, I have no idea why you sign the guest book, but it is very important, and we say it every week, and I think you should try it, and then you can tell me what happens, so it'll be kind of like an experiment. Please, at this time, turn off your cell phones, unless you're smart enough not to have one. Coffee hour and the potluck will be held downstairs after the service. Please come on down. If you get there fast enough, there may be some sweets left from the children who will have pilfered them. We will start by singing our in-gathering song. Yes?
I have an announcement.
Oh, yes, please.
The Resistance Singers will be meeting at 6:30 this Thursday, the 21st, in the social hall. So here's a chance to resist and sing at the same time.
Humor me a story. One evening, my friend's dog showed up at her, do I do this now? Yeah, sure. With the kids. Do we sing the kids out later? Yeah, okay. Okay, so one evening, my friend's dog showed up at her front door with the neighbor's dog dead in her mouth. I know. My friend was horrified. How can she explain this to her neighbor? What will they think when they figure out what's happened? Well, in the name of keeping the relationship good, she decides to go to their house under the cover of night that very same evening. She brings the dead dog and places him back on his runner, scattering some leaves to hint that a fox must have come for the little guy. She hears nothing the following day. The next day, she sees her neighbor. Trying to feign innocence, she asks, how have you been? The neighbor looks distressed. Well, she says, it's actually been a really hard couple of days. Oh, you don't say. My friend replies casually. Yeah, she continues. Last week, my dog passed away, and we buried him in the backyard. 2 days ago, we found out that not only had someone dug him up, but they put him back on his runner. So creepy. You're not supposed to laugh. Mostly the story is just funny to me. But there are some deeper meanings that we can tease out. Don't make assumptions. Have faith that things will work out in the end. And be honest. When we talk about building bridges, which is May's theme, these are some of the basic ideas that come to mind. Like drinking water and getting sleep, they appear simple, but consistency is nearly impossible. Having the presence of mind to notice when we make assumptions, our lacking faith, and not being honest give us fodder for our own bridge building. For me, bridge building or community making is twofold. First off, on a basic level, you've got to get out there. You've got to get involved in something and make the effort to be around other humans. But on a deeper level, it depends on the work we do in our own heart. Okay, number one, don't make assumptions. Never underestimate the power of the ego and its its joy in throwing other people under the bus. My judgments on a subconscious level are less about whatever they have going on and more about reinforcing some story about myself. We naturally define ourselves in opposition to others. Labeling others as the bad guy allows us to sit safely on the good guy side. I know it doesn't feel that way, but at heart, such judgments are ways of seeing how we measure up. This is a surefire way to make ourselves and others feel miserable and tear us apart. Number two, have faith. Ask yourself, what does it cost you to give something or someone the benefit of the doubt? What do you stand to gain? From experience, I can say it costs you nothing, and that you stand to gain a lot. Compassion feels better. When you judge or hold a negative view, you're choosing to experience that emotion, and that emotion is what will guide you as you react to what life throws at you. Faith is something that carries you through to a time and place where you might have greater context, or you may be in an entirely different context altogether. You can only stand on one side of the bridge at a time. Faith keeps you open to the other side. Number three, be honest. Have I ever been someone who has reacted out of fear? My husband can say no, definitely not. Have I ever spoken my feelings out loud without fully digesting them? I think we all know the answer to that one. Could they be more like me than I realize? We have a shockingly narrow view into other people's lives. Is there a chance you're getting it wrong? Is there a chance you don't know the full story? If we are being honest with ourselves, we can only respond yes. Keeping it real means that the bridge never shuts down for anyone. There is always a way through. By applying these concepts in your life first, within your heart and with self-awareness, you develop the tools so that when you step out into your community, you are ready to live them, and you are ready to guide others and magnify the effects. At a minimum, you'll be sure to avoid any lingering discomfort you'd have after messing around with your neighbor's dead dog. At its maximum, however, your bridges will be strong and beautifully made. We will now have a time of silence for meditation and prayer.
You got it yet? Bakumani balakumbaye. Bakumani balakumbaye. Just try that. Bakumani balakumbaye. Okay. Mini fa le la ah. Mini fa le la ah. Mini fa le la ah. Let's try the first two lines. Bakumani balakumbaye. Mini fa le la ah. Almost. Ready? One more time. One. Bakumani balakumbaye mini falela ha akajoy keleketjuke. Susan was one of my dearest friends, and she used to sing that song to me when I knew her in California. Susan is a red-haired, ever-smiling, powerful Irish woman. And I never saw her without a joy in her heart, even on the sorrow days. And when she sang that song, Bakumani balakumbaye mini falela ha akajoy keleketjuke. Every time she sang that line, she did what you just did, Carolyn. She was like, I like that line. There's something beautiful and something passionate in those lines. They're always around us, but sometimes it's hard to see that which is beautiful and that which is passionate. Sometimes for the lack of it, we sort of settle for tradition because the way we've done things in the past and the fact that it felt good before sometimes is a decent substitute for helping us to believe that it's going to feel good now. And there's a woman whose name is Mary Crabtree, I think is her name, who just wrote a book I'll talk about in a minute. But she said that's not what tradition is. Tradition is not the worship of ashes, she said. Tradition is the preservation of fire. One of our leading theologians is a man named Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's 19th century transcendentalist. Lived in, outside of Cambridge, Walden area. What's that called? Concord. He lived in Concord, Massachusetts. And he would say, why must we struggle with the dry bones? In other words, why should we struggle with the tradition that has gone from us? Why should we grope among the dry bones of the past, he says. The sun shines on this day also. So if we look out the window, this is the sun that is sacred for us. This is the sacred fire that burns for us today, not the ones that burned before. These days are ours and ours alone. Every day hanging out with Rick was a pain in a way because he had a wheelchair, because he was in pain, because he couldn't meet me at the restaurant, because he was incontinent, because he was obnoxious, which I enjoyed actually, and he knew that. And there were many days where I was late for something because the wheelchair wouldn't fit back into the car or because he was falling down. And with the strength that's available in this body, for which I'm incredibly grateful, I could barely lift him into my car. He doesn't have the kind of weight that knows how to support lifting, didn't have the kind of weight that knew how to support lifting. So it was always very difficult and challenging. But imagining a life without knowing Rick is not a life I want to lead. I'm very grateful for the one we know as Rick Cunningham. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty of the world through my own eyes. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty of the world through my own eyes. Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. Welcome to the beauty of this day. Welcome to the dreamers and to the seekers of spirit, either bold or bashful in the quest. Welcome to the wanderers and to the worshipers, landing here to give their souls a rest. Welcome to all souls who, just like you and just like me, are blissfully imperfect, blessed and beloved, held whole and honored by a love that knows no bounds. Today is Sunday, May the 17th, and the title of this morning's reflection is The Preservation of Sacred Fire. It's about choosing to take the driver's seat in our spiritual lives. It's about finding ways around what might be standing in our way. It is about choosing to see the beauty of the world through our own eyes, and it isn't easy. I'd like to share a story with you about laughter. Laughter is one of the things that really fills my heart. It really does it for me, especially the kind of laughter that is at the edge of surprise. There was a time in seminary when we had a party at the treehouse. The treehouse was the name of the home that we had given to the place where we lived in Oakland during the seminary years. We called it the treehouse because it was magical, wooden, and it was 3 stories high, which was higher than most of the buildings on the street, and because it had a big old tree right there in the front yard. From the right angle at the right time of day, it really did look like a treehouse. The 6 of us lived there. 5 of us were in seminary. I felt bad for Sarah, who was Andy's wife, who wasn't really part of the seminary experience. It was a lovely experience, and it was a lovely house, but it was a little strange. We had huge parties that were also lovely and strange, but also usually quite fun. At one of these parties, I was not having a whole lot of fun. I don't know why exactly, but I was bored. I really didn't want to be at the party that was happening in my own house, which is a weird feeling. It wasn't terrible, but I didn't want to be there. I saw my dear friend Lynn, who was hanging out in the living room. She was sitting on the couch enjoying the party. So I figured, just for fun, and in light of my current mood, I would try to annoy her for a while. Just for fun. Lynn and I were good friends, and we went through all of seminary together, and we've maintained a close relationship ever since. You may have met her here at North Chapel. She and her partner, Wendy, have visited us here quite often. They are the co-ministers at our sister church in Schenectady, New York. They and I spend a lot of Christmases together. We're very close. So we were having this party at the treehouse, and I was a little bored, and I was starting to bug Lynn, like a bratty little baby brother. I started bugging her by gently doing things at first. I was tossing slices of individually wrapped processed cheese at her. I tossed them one by one at first, and at first she didn't know it was me. Sometimes the cheese would land on the couch beside her. Sometimes it would land in her lap. Sometimes it would graze her shoulder. My plan was to slowly up the ante by increasing the velocity of the airborne cheese. It was summer. We were having a potluck dinner at my house, so the barbecue was fired up. One of our friends had brought the fixings for cheeseburgers, and she was cooking them for everyone who was interested. That's why there were slices of processed cheese in my home in California. I don't like processed cheese. Lynn really doesn't like processed cheese. In fact, she and Wendy are vegetarian. They're very mindful about their food. So this part of the party wasn't really working for them, but it was also why throwing the cheese slices was particularly gratifying to me. For some reason, I thought it would make matters worse, which was my plan. Now, Lynn is indefatigably gentle in her disposition. She almost never tires of being kind. Kindness is her superpower, maybe even to a fault. So I was looking for the fault line. I was looking for the breaking point at the time when she would make a shift inside and become more real with me. I was exploring the outer boundary of her habit of kindness, one could say. That is probably the most generous way to describe what I was doing. I succeeded in finding the breaking point, and when it seemed that Lynn had had enough of my little cheese-throwing game, when it looked like her patience had worn almost too thin, I threw like 4 slices of cheese at her pretty hard. They landed all around her, rapid fire, boom, 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 and suddenly Lynn's face changed from enduring patience to playful rage. Her face changed very fast, like the blinking of an eye. Her face changed faster than I thought it was going to, and I felt surprised and unprepared. Fortunately, I was right there next to the sliding glass door that led out to the outside patio, so I just quickly left the house. I closed the sliding glass door behind me, and I could see that Lynn was coming. So I ran through the yard to the front gate, and I ran through the gate, and I closed the gate behind me. And it was pretty clear that the physical barriers weren't slowing Lynn down at all. So I took off running down the street. Took off running down the Oakland street as fast as I could, and I figured I would leave Lynn in the dust and circle back later as the party was winding down with a playful apology. I didn't look back. I ran full bore. I burned all the cylinders, and I was flying. In fact, I was at the end of the block in almost no time, and I had impressed myself. So I was tiring out. I can only run my fastest for a short while before I'm totally out of breath. So I eased up like sprinters do after crossing the tape at the finish line, and I looked over my shoulder to see how far Lynn was behind me. Lynn was right behind me. She was 4 feet behind me at most. And the worst part is that she was not even the slightest out of breath. She wasn't the slightest out of breath. She wasn't working as hard as I was to move that fast. And the worst part of it was that she had in her right hand a slice of processed cheese. That woman lifted up my shirt, slapped the processed cheese on my back, and mushed it around in vulgar victory. Clearly, Lynn had won that round. That was 20 years ago. I'm still trying to figure out how to get her back. Until I do, I have to continue working through my sorrow and the repercussions of this disaster in therapy. I wish I had a picture of Lynn's face and what I saw in her eyes that night. I don't need a picture because the fire is still there each time I see her. I see it every time that we're together. And I wonder if what I see has the same kind of fire that Jesus knew. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus said, "I have come here to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already ablaze." Was the fire that I saw in Lynn's eyes in Oakland somehow related to the fire that Jesus was talking about? Could it be that we are already inwardly ablaze with a sacred fire that Jesus knew? But that we are just sitting around and not showing anybody, not sharing our light with the world, just sitting around, quietly doing whatever it is that is expected of us, just being casually polite at boring dinner parties. How would our lives be different if we were to show our inward fires? I'm not interested in the outward fires that shame and blame and defame the many people that we don't like. We already have an overabundance of that energy in the world, especially from Washington these days. I'm interested in the inward-facing fires, the fires that drive us to ask for the best and to get the most out of our friendships and out of our lives. It's just not wise to settle for anything less these days. Maya asked for the very best from her friend, James. And she got it. She got it because the two of them were already ablaze and knew it. Do we know that we are already ablaze? Maya Angelou asked for the best, and she got it from her friendship with James Baldwin. Why was that? Was it because they were both on the road to becoming world-famous authors? Because if that's the case, then their example is not very useful for us, unless we too are on the road to becoming world-famous authors ourselves. Or was it because they were both burning with a sacred fire? As Maya Angelou explains it, she says, "I first met Jim when he and I and the world were young enough to believe ourselves independently salvageable. We became friends in the late 1950s, just as the United States was poised to make its quantum leap into the future, a leap from which we are currently regressing. Just as Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and other Southerners were girding themselves for the second Civil War in 100 years, just when Malcolm X was giving voice to the anger in the streets and in the minds of northern black city folks, in that riotous pulse of political fervor, James Baldwin and I met and liked each other. I love the very first thing that Maya Angelou said, the disillusioning idea from which she frees herself, the idea that we and the world are independently salvageable, the idea that we are supposed to save ourselves alone, individually. This is not what beloved community is all about. We are not here to prove that we are worthy to anyone, even to ourselves. We are worthy. It's our job to know that. We don't have to take a test. We're not here to get good grades. We are here to give our love away. And that's what Rick does. An artist writes, "Now I've heard it said that the weight of the world's problems is enough to make the ball fall right through space, and that it ain't even worth it to live with all that's going on. But let me just go down as saying that I'm glad to be here with all the same pains and laughs that everybody knows. Some men think they're born to be king, and maybe that's true. But I think passing love around is all we were born to do, so let them build their kingdoms. Let them make the laws for this world to heed. You and I make life worth living right here in each other's arms. I'm here to love you." Isn't the dream of loving one another the highest expression of bravest heart? We are here to give our love away. I'm going to close with an idea from a woman named Molly Crabapple. She wrote an incredible book called Here Where We Live Is Our Country. It's about a group of Jewish people in Lithuania, Poland, and Russia who in the late 19th century, early 20th century, resisted the idea of creating a Jewish state. Molly Crabapple says, "Here where I live is our country." It's a slogan from the Bundist campaign. The Bund were the Labor Party in Jewish life in the late 19th century. "Here is where we live as our country." It's a slogan from a Bundist campaign poster in 1918. I choose this title for the book because it encompasses the value of the Bund that they always held. The value of Dunkley, or here-ness. Here-ness. Not there-ness, but here-ness. Born in probably the most anti-Semitic place on earth in 1897, the Bund built their philosophy on defiant resistance that Eastern Europe was their home and that they had a right to live in freedom and dignity and have a beautiful, flourishing life right where they were. 1897 is an interesting year. It's an interesting year because it's the same year as the Plessy versus Ferguson decision in New Orleans. Plessy versus Ferguson was a Supreme Court decision that led to separate but equal. We, perhaps humanly, are dealing with similar things in different ways. How do we live with one another is the core of what we're facing. How do we share this beautiful world together? If we were to come up with our own ideas, if we were to come up with something new, it would probably be born of a conversation that felt safe enough to say a crazy, weird idea. Crazy enough to accept people who are different from us. Crazy enough to accept ourselves at our worst and at our best. There's an artist named Georgia O'Keeffe who talks about that process of being alone, but that process that also brings that feeling of being alone into community more fully. She says, "It was the fall of 1915 that I first had the idea," excuse me, does everyone know Georgia O'Keeffe, the painter? She's a brilliantly talented person, unique style, and unique expression, that's a better way of saying It was the fall of 1915 that I first had the idea that what I had been taught was of little value to me except for my use of my materials as a language. Charcoal, pencil, pen and ink, watercolor, pastel, and oil. These had become so fluid with me that when I was so young that I simply used them as if they were another language that I handled easily. But what to say with them? I hung on the wall all the work that I had been doing for several months. And then I sat down and I looked at it. And I could see how each painting or each drawing had been done according to one teacher or another. And I said to myself, I have things in my head that are unlike anything that anyone has taught me. Shapes and ideas that are so near to me, so natural to my way of being that it hasn't occurred to me to put them down. And I decided to start anew, to strip away what I had been taught, to accept as true as my own thinking. This was one of the best times in my life. There was no one around to look at what I was doing, no one around, no one interested, no one to say anything about it one way or the other. I was alone and singularly free, working into my own unknown, no one to satisfy but myself. I began with charcoal and paper and decided not to use any color until it was impossible to do what I wanted to do in black and white. I believe it was June before I needed the color blue. How do we practice that process of asking ourselves what it is that is truest within us? And how do we muster the strength and the courage and the grace to offer what is unique to us to others in the world? Because there's something that grows from that. There's a power, a light, a heat, a fire that grows from that. Georgia O'Keeffe was able to find it. Maya Angelou was able to find it. James Baldwin was able to find it. My friend Lynn in seminary is able to find it. My friend Susan, who taught me the song, is able to find it, and you can see it in her eyes when she sings. Bakumani balakumbayemini falela ha akajoya gelekajukuke. May we, in a time of great challenge, find a gentle wit within us, graceful, kind, gentle, and sometimes vulgarly victorious, that is able to champion what is delicate and best and graceful in us, that is able to see ourselves in one another, whether we are different colors or different genders or different abilities in our bodies or different ages or different political aspirations. How do we find that beautiful core that keeps us in beloved community? This is our tradition of finding ourselves despite our differences. Tradition is not the worship of ashes. Tradition is the preservation of a sacred fire. I hope today you find a way to laughter that surprises you. I hope that some of you, one brave soul, will help me find a way to get my friend Lynn back. And I hope that you find a way to know what is deepest in you and know what is courageous and know what is sacred and beautiful and kind and unique, singular and free. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.